On June 12, 2026, a rocket company priced its shares at $135. By the time the opening bell finished ringing, one man had done something no human being in recorded history had ever done. He became a trillionaire. But 40 years earlier, that same man was a bullied, bookish kid in Pretoria, South Africa, beaten so badly in school that he once woke up in a hospital. He would go bankrupt in his own mind at least 3 times. He would be told by people far smarter than him that rockets don't work like that cars don't sell like that you cannot simply #will an industry into existence. He did it anyway. 3 times. This is the story of billionaires, not the myth, not the memes, not the headlines. The real, documented source story of how a kid who taught himself to code from a library book became the richest human being who has ever lived.
Thanks for watching Inside Living channel. Knowledge is power. Like this video if you learned something new. And comment below.
Billionaire success stories.
Elon Musk was born June 28, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa. His father, an engineer. His mother, a model. The popular myth is that Musk inherited an emerald mine fortune. It's one of the most repeated claims about him online, and it has been thoroughly debunked by multiple biographers and fact-checkers. There is no credible evidence of an emerald mine fortune funding his childhood or his companies. What he did inherit was something less glamorous and, in the end, more valuable: an obsession with reading. As a child, he reportedly read for up to 10 hours a day, moving through entire sections of libraries and encyclopedias. At age 10, he got his first computer. By 12, he had taught himself to program and sold his first piece of software,
A simple space-themed game called Blastar, to a computer magazine for approximately $500. School was brutal. Musk has spoken about being bullied so severely that he was once hospitalized after being thrown down a flight of stairs. He has described feeling like an outsider for most of his early life, a detail that recurs again and again in his biography as the need to prove something to a world that didn't expect much from him. At 17, he made his first real bet, leaving South Africa for Canada, partly to avoid mandatory military service, and partly because his mother held Canadian citizenship. He arrived with little money, worked odd jobs, and
including a stint cleaning out grain silos, before eventually transferring to the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned degrees in both physics and economics. That combination, physics and economics, would define his entire career. Musk has often described his approach using a concept borrowed from physics. Boil a problem down to its most basic truths and build up from there, instead of reasoning by analogy to what's already been done. It sounds simple. It is not how most industries are built. And it's the thread that connects everything that follows. In 1995, instead of pursuing a PhD at Stanford, Musk dropped out after just 2 days to chase the early internet boom. Essentially an early online city guide, helping newspapers put maps and business directories on the internet before that was a normal thing to do. In 1999, Compaq acquired Zip2 for roughly $300 million. Musk's personal share was about $22 million. He was 27 years old. Most people would have stopped there. Instead, he put the majority of that money into his next company, X.com, an online banking and payments startup. Musk was pushed out as CEO in a boardroom coup in 2000 while on his honeymoon. A moment that could have ended his story as a cautionary tale about founders getting removed from their own companies. Instead, when eBay acquired PayPal in 2002 for $1.5 billion,
we have breaking news out of San Jose. eBay announcing they will acquire PayPal in a massive stock deal.
He actually begins, not with a rocket, not with a car, with a wire transfer of $180 million FENG, and a decision that almost nobody in his position would have made. He didn't buy a mansion. He didn't retire. He put almost all of it into 2 industries that that venture capital at the time considered essentially uninvestable: rockets and electric cars.
Sell everything! I don't care what the price is, just get rid of it!
It's gone, it's all gone. We're finished.
They're halting trading on Lehman.
In 2002, Musk founded space exploration technologies SpaceX with the stated long-term goal of making life multiplanetary. In 2004,
He joined a small electric car startup called Tesla Motors and lead investor, eventually becoming CEO in 2008. Both companies would nearly kill him financially at the exact same time.
We have a vehicle anomaly. Stand by.
SpaceX's Falcon 1 rocket failed on its first launch attempt in 2006.
it failed again in 2007. It failed a third time in August 2008. 3 consecutive failures. In the private space industry, that kind of failure rate ends companies. Musk later admitted that by late 2008, he had personally run out of money. He was reportedly sleeping on a couch at SpaceX's offices, borrowing money from friends, all while the 2008 global financial crisis. The worst possible moment to need a 4th rocket launch. The worst possible moment for Tesla to need to raise money to survive.
Sell it now! Sell everything!
We're in free fall. Nobody is buying.
Get me out of the market!
He had 2 companies. He had almost no money left. And he made the decision that defines this entire story. He split his last available funds between both of them, instead of saving one and letting the other die. On September 28, 2008, the 4th attempt, Falcon 1, successfully reached orbit. It was the first privately developed liquid-fueled rocket ever to do so. Days later, NASA awarded SpaceX
A $1.6 billion contract to the International Space Station.
a contract that effectively saved the company. Weeks after that, on Christmas Eve 2008,
Tesla closed a critical round of funding, reportedly with hours to spare before the company would have run out of cash entirely.
Behold the future of both spaceflight and transport. This is how we push the absolute limits of innovation.
2 companies, weeks apart, both on the exact edge of bankruptcy. Both say almost simultaneously in the middle of the worst financial crisis in generations. If either deal had gone the other way, there may never have been a Tesla, a SpaceX, or the trillion-dollar outcome that followed nearly 2 decades later.
Surviving 2008 didn't mean winning. Tesla spent years being mocked by traditional automakers, hemorrhaging cash, and repeatedly predicted to fail. Production of the Model 3 in 2017 and 2018 became so difficult that Musk described living inside the factory, sleeping on the floor, trying to solve what he called. Tesla became the world's most valuable automaker by market capitalization, surpassing companies that had been building cars for a century, despite producing a fraction of the vehicles. Meanwhile, SpaceX quietly built the infrastructure that would make Musk's fortune truly historic. Starlink, its satellite internet division, grew into a global communications network. SpaceX developed the Falcon 9, the first orbital-class rocket capable of reliable reuse, collapsing the cost of reaching space and making SpaceX the dominant launch provider on Earth.
Falcon 9 is on approach for landing. Touchdown confirmed on the drone ship. Starlink stack has separated. Orbital deployment is successful.
Along the way, Musk added companies almost as side projects that most entrepreneurs would treat as a life's work. The Boring Company,
a tunneling venture, in 2017. Neuralink, a brain-computer interface company, in 2016. In 2015, he co-founded OpenAI, though he would later leave the organization. Amid disagreements over its direction, a departure that helped motivate the founding of xAI, his own artificial intelligence company, in 2023. In 2022, in one of the most expensive and most publicly scrutinized deals in tech history, he acquired Axe for $44 billion. Tesla's self-driving promises repeatedly missed their own deadlines. The public conduct from controversial statements to a high-profile, short-lived role advising the U.S. government through the Department of Government Efficiency in 2025, drew intense criticism and, at times, backlash against Tesla's brand itself. This is a documentary about how the fortune was built, and it would be dishonest to pretend the road was without turbulence, controversy, or real financial risk to the companies along the way. For years, SpaceX operated as a private company, its true value locked away. That changed on June 12, 2026.
SpaceX listed publicly on the Nasdaq under the ticker SPCX, pricing its initial public offering at $135 a share, implying a valuation near $1.77 trillion and raising approximately $75 billion. It became the largest public stock offering in history, more than double the size of Saudi Aramco's record-setting 2019.
By the end of its first day of trading, SpaceX's valuation had climbed past $2 trillion. In the private space industry, that kind of failure rate ends companies. Musk later admitted that by late 2008, he had personally run out of money. The stake in the company here, after decades of dilution across more than 30 funding rounds since 2002, still stood at roughly 40%, worth well over $700 billion on its own. Combined with his Tesla holdings, his net worth crossed a line no individual had ever crossed in human history. $1 trillion, not a projection, not a headline exaggeration, a real calculated figure from the Bloomberg Billionaires Index and Forbes, and that built primarily on his roughly 42% stake in SpaceX and around 20% of Tesla. It didn't stop moving. His net worth peaked at an intraday high of around $1.4 trillion less than a week after the IPO, before sliding back below the trillion-dollar mark by late June as both stocks cooled tons, and then climbing back above it again by the end of the month as shares rallied. That volatility matters because it's the truest picture of what this kind of wealth actually is. Not cash in a vault, but a number that rises and falls with two stock tickers, built on paper value that even he cannot simply withdraw.
On paper, you might be worth millions. But in cash, that's where the real freedom is. Never confuse the two.
In November 2025, months before the SpaceX listing, Tesla shareholders had already approved a compensation package for Musk potentially worth close to $1 trillion over the next decade, contingent on Tesla hitting a staggering series of milestones, including reaching a market capitalization of $8.5 trillion. It is, by a wide margin, the largest executive compensation structure ever approved by a public company board. By early July 2026, with the market settling, Forbes placed his net worth at approximately roughly $932 billion, figures that, only 2 years earlier, would have sounded like science fiction.
This story doesn't teach us that good always wins. It teaches us that choices define who we are.
Strip away the tweets, the controversies, the headlines, and what's left is a very specific, very repeatable pattern. He took an early exit, Zep2, and didn't waste it. He took a second exit, PayPal, and instead of protecting it, put nearly all of it at risk on two industries everyone else considered dead ends. He nearly lost everything in a single year and chose to split his last dollars between both companies rather than save one and abandon the other. And when the wins finally came, decades later, they came from patient, unglamorous, often humiliating years of production delays, rocket explosions, and public failure, not overnight virality. Every fortune here, Zip2, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, was reinvested into the next, riskier bet.
Whatever you think of the man, and there is plenty of legitimate reason to have a complicated opinion, the documented facts of how this fortune was built tell a story less about privilege and more about repeated, extreme risk. for over 2 decades, until one of those risks turned into the largest personal fortune in recorded history.
From $500 for a video game
to 1,000,000.
This has been Billionaire Success Stories. If you want to see how the next name on this list built theirs, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.